It's an absolutely wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering. The official teaser list for Aetherdrift has just been revealed, and it is totally nuts. We have an insane cycle of legendaries. We have people riding cats and dogs. We have de-sparked planeswalkers galore, and on top of that, a bunch of vehicle insanity.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a wacky installment of Mega Magic News. This is the Aetherdrift teaser edition, so if you don't know how this works, every set Rosewater releases a list of teasers that gives us partial information. So you can consider them spoilers as well, but you won't be getting the entirety of the card's information. And there is a bunch of insanity in this teaser list. In fact, I think this is the craziest teaser list that I've ever seen. It has to be the craziest in the last few years at least. So buckle on your wacky helmets. We are going into weird race car town, so just a warning, if you're somebody who finds it jarring to have the whole car beep beep vroom vroom concept in Magic the Gathering, some of these card names are gonna make you shudder. But other than that, it's probably gonna be all right. And I mean, I feel you. It does feel very strange to have this stuff coming into Magic the Gathering, but we are entering the weirdest year in Magic's history, so it's probably only getting crazier from here, but Aetherdrift does have the potential to be the nuttiest set of the whole year. Now, let us dive in, starting at the top of the teaser list with a 13/13 vehicle with crew 2 that costs 1 mana to cast. So that obviously evokes the Phyrexian Dreadnought aura in terms of a gigantic creature for a piddly 1 mana. It'll obviously have some horrendous drawback. You're not going to get something that costs 1 mana, is 13/13, and then cruise for 2. It might be something insane like sack multiple creatures or have some huge restriction on it when you're casting it, but from just the perspective of, whoa, I love gigantor creatures and smashing with huge boys, that is pretty interesting. And it does make you wonder as well, what kind of vehicle in the race is going to be a gigantic 13/13? Is it going to be some kind of mega massive steamroller or some other goofiness, right? So they've got a mechanic called Start Your Engines. This is this is Magic in 2025, boys. Start your engines, friends. So who knows what that means? I'm guessing Start Your Engines is probably like a haste-based mechanic. Like maybe it's give the creature haste and +1/+1 until end of turn if you meet particular conditions, like paying some extra gas money. I don't know. Start your engines. All right. Then we've got 3 planeswalkers native to one of the worlds visited, and 1 non-native gets a desparked legendary creature version. So basically, they're saying we're going to see planeswalkers from some of the worlds that we're visiting in Aetherdrift, and then also another planeswalker who doesn't come from any of those worlds. All those planeswalkers will be desparked, right? And so the worlds we're visiting for Aetherdrift, if you don't already know, Miragonda, we're also going to Kaladesh, which is now known as Avishkar, and then you have Amonkhet rounding it out. So with that lineup of planes that we're involving here, obviously when it comes to the non-native, it can be anyone from anywhere, but we already have that one locked down, right? We've already seen Duretti, so he's the one that we know concretely 1000% is part of the set since we've seen the card, and he is not native to any of the planes that we've mentioned, which really does narrow down the list of suspects considerably. So we have Basri, right? Basri Ket, who is actually mentioned in the recent story that was released yesterday, actually. They just started the Aetherdrift story over on the main website. I actually talked about it in a live stream last night. If you missed the live stream talking about it, that will be available over on my live stream archive, where I will be streaming tonight, actually, again, over there, talking about things. But either way, Wizards of the Coast has put out the story for it, so if you want to check that out, you can see that. They've got the main story, side stories. The one side story featured Basri Ket. So Basri is a reasonable include. And then the other likely candidates are Samit and Saheeli, right? I mean, Nissa is a desparked planeswalker, and she's there as part of the race thing, but she's originally from Zendikar, if my memory serves correctly. So since we already know it's Doretti, it really just goes, it's like Samit, Basri, and Saheeli are your main suspects for that particular point on the list. Now, the next one is super interesting to me. Actually, it's the most interesting item on the entire list, and that is a cycle of vanilla legendary creatures. Now, my first gut reaction to that was glee, going, oh man, they're going to make gigantic honk boy insane stat legendaries. Because understand, we live in a time where vanilla creatures are essentially extinct, right? Foundations brought them back to a very small degree. We have that gigantic dinosaur that's like 12-8 or 12-6. Like, there are a few vanilla creatures, but Magic's power and complexity creep has edged vanilla creatures out of the picture overall. So the fact that they're even doing any in any way at all usually means we got to put big numbers on it. So I was thinking like souped up Yargles. You know how like Multanian Yargle is some 18 power gigantic monstrosity? I immediately started to think, wow, these vanilla legendary rares would be crazy. And then my brain went, wait, it doesn't say rare. It could be uncommon. It could actually be common, right? There are people who play things like Pauper Commander. So in that situation, obviously, having more options is going to serve more people. So the fact that they're vanilla actually leans way more heavily into making them common or uncommon, because to make them rare, they would have to make them massive and gigantic. But that's also if we're thinking that they're all on the same rarity level, because when it comes to a cycle of these, they're not actually technically required to be all the same rarity. So you could actually have one that's mythic rare, you could have one that's rare, two that are uncommon, one that's common across the different concepts, right? So this one actually gets me really interested. Are we going to get big, crazy chonk boys at rare, or are we going to get above average bodies on commons or uncommons, right? I mean, literally, you can get uncommon vanillas now that are like 12 sixes. So how big are they going to have to make these vanilla creatures, or how cheap are they going to have to cost them, right? So, and when it comes to this, and when they say that they're doing like a cycle of them, does that mean that it is monocolored? Are they going to be multiple colored? Like, are they going to be actually crazy nonsense, like one blue for a 2/2 flyer or one green for a 4/4? Oh, wait, it can't be a flyer. Never mind, they're vanilla, right? So forget that. So maybe like one green for a 4/4. Something that's crazy above the curve. It has to be. As a vanilla creature, it has to be above the curve. Like I said, this point got my imagination fired up the most from an exciting gameplay standpoint. The next item on the list is just hilarious from a mental viewpoint, and that is cats and dog mounts. So the mount mechanic that we saw in Thunder Junction is making a return in the race car set, where people are driving magically powered monster trucks and drag racers and stuff, and somehow people are riding cats and dogs that can keep up. What are they riding? Panthers? Like, what? It's such. And I already had my mind way out in left field. Like, it's way out in left field, ready to catch the stray. Oh, there we go. We got a pop fly. Oh, he caught it. He's out in the field. He's waiting for it. But Wizards is like, oh, you thought that it was actually going to fall in the field. No, we're firing the ball into outer space. Like, you thought that this race car set was going to be a race car set. But nope. People are riding cats and dogs. It's just absolute madness. An old god returns and new gods are introduced. So these are the Kaladeshi Avishkar gods, depending on how you want to look at it, right? So the old gods mostly got wiped out, leaving Hazaret alive. And now there's a new cycle of gods. Apparently the Lux is being purified. Amonkhet is being rebirthed and reborn. And that part of the story and changes are way more interesting than what's going on with the Kaladesh change, because that was mostly a superficial change just based on them wanting to redo the name. So they did spend the time to change the story and go, this is the story reason it's happening, which is great. It's better than just changing it without a story justification. But the story justification itself is much smaller and less world changing overall. It's pretty much like the place is the same mostly, and we've just changed the name, versus Amonkhet, where new gods, a new pantheon is being established after they've rebuilt from, first of all, the devastation of Nicopolis, followed up by the Phyrexians, right? So you've got like a big crazy frog god. The new gods are actually fun, and I really like the fact that we're getting genuine world building in a way that feels like it makes sense with the whole Amonkhet thing. And again, I will give them a little nod to putting in the effort for the Kaladesh name change, even if the whole thing did feel absolutely unnecessary. Next item on the list is a new Lotus. Obviously, everybody loves Lotuses. They've done so many different Lotuses that it's hard to know whether you should be excited. What level of excitement should we be at? What type of Lotus are we dealing with? I mean, we're living in a power-crept world, so it could be a powerful Lotus, or it could just be looks like a powerful Lotus on the surface, and then you try it out and go, that's all right. But new Lotuses are always welcome. I wonder if it's going to be a Lotus vehicle. Like, oh, there's a car, right, called the Lotus. There's actually somebody out in the world who has, this is a real world thing. There's somebody out in the world who has a car, and the car is called the Lotus. They have a black one, and their actual license plate is add 3 mana, right? Which is a lot of fun. That picture has been floating around for years. People send it to me now and again going, have you seen this? And I have. So it's just like, are they literally going to make a black Lotus car as the Lotus card? Okay. Next item on the list. Cycle of multicolored Gearhulks. I really like this one. The Gearhulks are pretty cool. These gigantic constructs. We're talking huge, like, stadium crasher size that they would use, like, in the olden days of Kaladesh for parades and also maintaining order. It's just basically like a gigantic, huge robot dude, magical construct golem where you have the leaders standing up on top on this platform, but all the Gearhulks have crazy come into play and whenever I attack style abilities, depending on which ones you're dealing with, right? Some of them just have come into play effects that are big and crazy. But either way, the Gearhulks are big creatures with big effects, and the artwork that they've shown for some of these look pretty sweet. So I like those. They don't feel really jarring like some of the vehicle stuff does. That's a nice include. And it means, obviously, I mean, this is, like I said multiple times in this video, it's the power crept era of Magic, so those Gearhulks are probably going to be strong. We get numerous mechanics from the worlds visited getting cameos. So this is mostly, the mechanics are mostly going to come from Amonkhet and Kaladesh, right? When it comes down to Muruganda, the whole concept of Muruganda is vanilla creatures. That's what it's all about. That's why there's old enchantments, Muruganda petroglyphs that say creatures with no abilities get +2/+2. It's a basic primal plane that Wizards never really planned to fully use and isn't that fleshed out, right? So we're not going to get mechanics that are like getting cameos here unless they make up new mechanics for Muruganda, in which case that doesn't feel like a cameo, because a cameo kind of has to be somebody you already know, like a returning mechanic, right? Then we've got a new vehicle artifact token. So it's probably going to be some kind of creature. Hey, I'm Stacy the Soapbox Racer. And when she comes out, make a Soapbox Derby token. And then the Soapbox Derby token is a equipment that has tap a creature for power 2 or greater, drop a board counter off this thing because some wood fell off it, and roll it down the hill, right? So it'll probably just be a creature that generates the artifact token specific to them. I won't race with anything but the best, and only I make the best. And that's West, the best racer from the West, right? Just, it's silly. Okay, next up, rules text that will be showing up on cards. This creature saddles mounts and crews vehicles using its toughness rather than its power. So instead of actually using the vehicles with its arms and climbing up on the mount with its arms, because that's your power, everybody knows toughness is your butt. So this guy drives vehicles with his butt and climbs up on horses and cats and dogs with it too. It's I mean, it's cool at least. that they're kind of expanding the usefulness of mounts, because mounts only existed in Thunder Junction. And I honestly thought that we wouldn't see mounts again, because Thunder Junction felt very slapped together, and I was not expecting that. So I will give points for making mechanics that are pre-existing in Standard more relevant to a degree. Who knows how useful this creature is, but at least there's stuff, and that's nodding towards it. Then we've got, whenever you draw a card, each opponent mills 2 cards. So this is like that blue enchantment from the core set that we had about 4 or 5 years ago. There's a Teferi enchantment that says whenever you draw a card, your opponent mills 2. And man, is it so insanely strong in drafts. I remember that card hosing me so hard, and literally playing in drafts where it showed up in my second pack, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm taking that, and I'm completely changing my entire strategy. Almost a third pack version of just this enchantment would be enough. And if you got 2 of them in your draft, it's just an uncommon. If you got 2 of them, you won. You were not going to lose. You were going to mill out their 40 card deck in no time at all. So I'm genuinely curious about this one. Is it literally just going to be a reprint of that enchantment in some kind of special treatment? Or is it going to be a revisit of that ability on some brand new race car beep beep dude, right? After that, we've got other dinosaurs you control get +1/+1. Pretty straightforward concept. Some kind of Dino Lord coming. Nobody's really going to complain about that out of the dino-loving contingent. It really matters how much it costs and what else it does. Like a 3-mana 3/3 dinosaur that gives all you guys +1/+1 just does not feel nearly strong enough. Oh, you can go back to the olden days. That'd be great, but yeah, this one, honestly, just the +1/+1 for dinosaurs. If you're super hyped into dinosaurs, probably excited about that, but remains to be seen how good it is. Then the next line is whenever a player casts a spell they don't own. So this is most likely something that lets you exile cards from your opponent's stuff and then play them, right? Then also has the effect, whenever a player plays a spell they don't own, right? Although it could technically be something that gives both of you like access to each other's cards, kind of like Shared Fate did, and then gives you some kind of bonus. You know what I mean? Like if it just said whenever a player casts a spell they don't own, you draw a card. Every time you do it, you draw a card. Every time your opponent does it, you draw a card. So they can take away the symmetricalness of the bonus. Next up, we've got tap. Add a red for each goblin you control. This one's interesting because you can make a ton of goblins, but when you already have a ton of goblins, do you need a ton of red mana? What are you going to pump that red mana into? I mean, if you use the old aggravated enchantment, pay 5 mana, untap all your guys, swing in again, like that obviously would go great with something like this. But it's interesting tension between the whole, you want more goblins to get more mana, but how much mana do you need when you have a big army of goblins? So I'm curious to see what that's going to turn out to be. Then we have, during turns other than yours, this vehicle is an artifact creature. So this is just a vehicle like automated sentry car. Oh, I will drive around for you like Ed 209. You have 20 seconds, or I will run you over. Like something along those lines. It's not super exciting. After that, we've got whenever you activate an exhaust ability, draw a card. So that's a cameo right there of an ability from Amonkhet. Exhaust says whenever you attack with this creature, you can exhaust it to gain an additional ability, like give it a boost or something like that. But exhausting it means it doesn't untap the next turn. So having cards that play off exhaust, that's totally fine by me. It's a nice little include. After that, we've got put any number of permanents from your hand onto the battlefield. That is a very green feeling effect, right? Slap them all out. Probably has some huge casting cost, but would be fun to play. Then we've got whenever you attack, if a pirate and a vehicle attacked this combat, which sounds goofy, but understand there's going to be like Sky Shark pirate guys, which also sounds goofy, but it at least means that this will be possible with the cards in the set. So if you have a pirate and a vehicle attacking the combat together, you'll get some kind of benefit. Then you've got creatures you control have base power and toughness 6/6 and are oozes in addition to their other types. Are people getting injected with ooze? Like, what's going on with this one? This is exciting because I want to know what's going on with the whole turning into oozes, but also just making all you guys base 6/6. That's a great feeling. Squad, you got a little bunch of 1/1s, now there's 6/6s. So we'll finish it off with some of the creature type lines. So these are the creature types you'll see on the cards. So Seal Pirate. Oh man, I got Kiss from a Rose in my head. Baby! All right, then we got Lizard Berserker. That's not that new, right? Insect Archer, Core Pilot. I wonder if they're bringing back that one pilot guy from Kaladesh for this set. You got an artifact creature robot turtle. Maybe that's the one that's active during your opponent's turns. You got an ape druid, a zombie cat knight. That's a funky type line. A cat knight is already interesting, but a zombified one? Then you've got Vidalcan Ranger, dinosaur dragon mount. Oh, that's how you do mount, bro. Riding dragons is way more exciting than riding like a little grizzly bear or a goat or something. Yeah. Wow, I don't know. I missed that one the first time around. You've got a legendary Aetherborn rogue. That's going to be Gaunty. We already know that. And then it ends off with some of the names from the set. So you've got Adrenaline Jockey, Flood the Engine, Gas Guzzler, Maximum Overdrive, Pedal to the Metal, Road Rage, Roadside Assistance, the Speed Demon, Spin Out, and Siphon Fuel instead of Siphon Soul. So the names, honestly, that's where I go, oh, I don't know. Oh, I feel my magic melting. No, it's goofy. But either way, Aetherdrift is going to be an interesting experience. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. And I'm here for the history of it either way. So thanks for coming by and hearing what I have to say. Big shout out to my patrons. And like I said earlier, I'll be live streaming, which is super live streaming. I'll be live streaming over on my live stream channel tonight. Come on by and say hello. The link is pinned down in the comments below. Goodbye for now.